A couple of years ago, I remember reading in Romania about a university professor that came from Britain. I don't recall his name, but I remember the story very well. He was dismayed that back home he wasn't allowed to talk Brexit at the university. They said, "Oh, we already talked about it," even though they haven't really taken a liking to the subject, and most of the speeches that they gave were against it. So it was a little bit upset, but as it comes to Romania, like he expected the same thing, especially when an actual person from Brussels was coming at the university to have a speech on the European Union. But it turns out that despite the fact that Romania at the time was one of the most pro-EU country in the bloc, allowed this person to speak, and he was bewildered about the academic freedom that was had here. He managed to speak about Brexit uninterrupted, made his points. After that, the pro-EU guy went in, made his points, and then the students were allowed to ask questions, which is pretty much how a university is supposed to function, unlike in the United Kingdom. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is that Brexit obviously was very popular with the British public. Overwhelmingly, they voted for it, and it wasn't just on the initial referendum, but Nigel Farage did create the Brexit Party, which literally had one issue and managed to get into the European Union with a surprisingly high number of votes. So clearly the British public wants Brexit, but now Nigel Farage is being punished for it. Because you see, the left ideology is that without people like Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson and other people they persecute, everyone would vote for Barack Obama. They literally believe that the natural state of things, that humankind would vote for left-leaning policies from birth. But unfortunately, because of various speakers that puppeteer the public, you have people that are being misled, gone astray. And you need to punish these people. You need to persecute them, make an example out of them. In the case of Nigel Farage, it seems that his bank accounts have been shut down. And as you guys know, especially as we're moving towards cashless societies and central bank digital currency, living without cash is incredibly difficult to do in a first modern world. Our ancestors actually did realize that there are certain facilities that are pivotal for the life in a modern society, such as electricity, water, and because of that, these are considered utilities, and you have a right to access them. But when it comes to the internet, when it comes to money, banking, well, that's not necessarily a utility, so it can be taken away from you, and they will never legislate in the opposite. But what's interesting is that usually it is required for a person to say something problematic, to do something problematic, right? So like when they deplatformed Alex Jones, when they deplatform Steve Bannon, when they're deplatforming Trump, it's because like they do something that is considered nasty, at least by the left, if not by the public. In the case of Nigel Farage, he didn't do anything. Like, even he doesn't know why he is being punished. The banks will not tell him because they don't want to be sued. So they're just saying, well, we don't want to do business with you. He can only speculate. One of the things that he is speculating is that the European Union has coined a term which is politically exposed person. Initially, this term was to mean if someone is getting money from like foreign governments or terrorist groups, like basically someone that's being bribed, and that was like a politically exposed person. But in the case of today, this definition has expanded to the point where it can mean anything. Anyone can pay a politician, and if they consider that they're getting money from a hate group or whatever, then they're a politically exposed person, which opens them to persecution. Now, in the case of Nigel Farage, it appears that another politician said that he is getting money from Russia. A very common accusation nowadays. It's being labeled against a lot of Romanian politicians. The politicians that actually did get money from Russia, as long as they're in power and they're with the correct political party, is never brought up. While the politicians that are in the opposition and, they may not even have gotten money from Russia, they are being, in the press, accused of doing so without much evidence. This is what happened in the case of Nigel Farage. And it's interesting because we live in a world where the governments have a lot of access to our privacy, unlike before. Social media is monitoring almost everything you say. Discord is logging everything. Bank accounts, they, at least in my country, but I assume it's probably the same in Britain. They can give to a judge the personal information of a person, usually by just the government asking. Like, even if there isn't legal, the government can just ask. I mean, we saw what happened in the United States with the rioters at the Capitol building. Like, the government simply asked the banks, and the banks collaborated. But not only that, you can also petition a court order in order to see. So it's not like the government won't be able to find out if he actually got money from the Russians, but it seems that even though he disagrees with it, and he's asking that the person who said it withdraw his accusations, nothing will happen. So now he can't open any bank account. Obviously, this is political persecution. It's interesting how when it happens in other countries, like in Russia, we can point at it and say that it's wrong. But when it's happening in the West, if it's happening to the correct individuals, then it is progressive, it is forward-thinking, it is pro-European. So it is very concerning, right? The reason they're doing it to Nigel Farage is precisely due to the fact that they want to set an example. It's basically, if you're fighting against the government and you're effective at it, then we are going to punish you, and we don't really need much reason. Like, we can orchestrate all of this, and you're never going to be able to even fight it because you're not knowing what you're fighting against. Like, he has not been presented with any wrongdoings. He has not been presented with what he did wrong, but it's kind of like, well, you know what you did, type of thing. So it is very unfortunate for democracy. It is very unfortunate that people cannot be represented. I mean, this is what democracy is, right? Like, you're supposed to be represented. Nigel Farage is popular because he represented people. It's not that people represented Nigel Farage because he is popular. And they simply want to crack down on any type of dissent. The left is encouraging this, but as we're moving towards central bank digital currency, like, it's already passed the legislation, now we're at the implementation phase, and we're moving towards that, which is more of a Chinese system where the government can control your finances. This type of behavior is definitely very concerning. It's also interesting that Bolsonaro is not allowed to participate until 2030, which is also when the zero carbon emission agenda should take place, which is also with a lot of control in mind. Which does go to tell us that once that happens, they're not afraid that anyone is going to be able to oppose them, because as you can see, you can shut down their bank accounts, and good luck running a political campaign without having banks. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.